This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development from a group of people with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 511, UI Suite 2.0. On today's show, we are talking about the UI Suite module, its module ecosystem, and what's new in the 2.0 release with our guest, Pierre Dureau. We'll also cover field format range as a module of the week. Welcome to Talking Drupal. Our guest today is Pierre. He's been a Drupal professional since 2006. He's the creator and leader of UI Suite, provisional front-end manager, and co-maintainer of SDC and the Icon API. Pierre, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy, and I'm happy to be back.
Also joining us for his third episode, JD Leonard, freelance Drupal architect and developer at Modern Biz Consulting. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And as usual, John Picozzi, solution architect at EPAM.
Hello, everyone. And worth noting, Pierre was here back in January of, let's see, last year, I think it was, to talk about UI Suite. So, many things have changed, I'm sure, including
Much.
the 2.0 version. I'm really excited to dive in to see what's new, what's different, and where we're going.
And now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson, Klutz, the senior solutions,
No, no,
a
no,
principal
no.
solutions
There you
engineer
go.
at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules and recipes of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted to show only a subset of field values on your Drupal entity displays? There's a module for that. It's called Field Formatter Range, and it was created in January of 2024 by Florent Torregrossa, also known as Grim Reaper in the community, but today's guest, Pierre, is also a maintainer. It has an 8.x-1.6 version available, which works with Drupal 10 and 11. It is marked as minimally maintained and maintenance fixes only, but it does have security coverage and also no open issues on Drupal.org, which is pretty good considering it is officially in use by 1,362 sites. Now, unlike some competing solutions, this module uses third-party settings to work on virtually any formatter for a multi-valued field. As part of the configuration, a site builder can specify the offset, so where to start, the number of field values to show, and the order in which to show them. The order can be standard or reverse, or it can list them in a random order. Module page gives the example of an entity with 15 images attached and being able to show only the first 5, or maybe could show only the 5 most recent. I think if you combine the module with the custom field module we talked about in episode 505, you could achieve some interesting things with simple configuration. For example, you could have an FAQ page and have the teaser for it show 3 random answers from the FAQ set. So I thought maybe we could start talking or start the discussion by Pierre. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you became involved as a maintainer on this
Mhm.
module.
I think it was my proposal at the beginning because I'm a huge field formatter user and fan. I love the concept. And in some of our projects, we were doing a specific code just to have the first ones, the last one. When I say first and last, it's not by date, huh? It's by item order. And and finally, Florent create a January module for the community to enjoy it. And on my project, we are using it a lot. So it's minimally maintained.
Yeah, I can say with the Smart Date module that I work on, there is a recurring formatter that does some things around sort of showing subsets, in that case, specifically around, which is the most recent or, the upcoming ones and those kinds of things. But I get lots of requests for showing subsets in different sort of configurations. So I was really excited to see this module as something I can potentially point people to, for different ways of being able to sort of show subsets of those multi-valued fields.
Great. I'm happy.
I'm literally sitting here trying to think of another use case for it that'll make it. So basically, this module allows you to have a field, have a subset of value, have a set of values, and then choose a subset of those values to display.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. So I guess the FAQ one makes a little bit more sense to me now, but where is there another instance where I might only want to see a subset of the responses? Is it more like, I guess, in teaser views? Is that commonly where it's used or where you think it would be used?
Mm. Entity reference is a very obvious example. It's the one we talked before. But my main use of this module is, for example, if you want to have a button, you have a set of link with button. Of course, you use a UI pattern formatter with SDC button, and you want the first one to be primary and all the other one to be secondary, because you have a rule in your design saying only one button can be primary in a you put the same field twice with the same formatter, one primary, one secondary, and thanks to free formatter edge, you print only the first one on the first formatter and all the other one with offset of one in the second formatter.
Hmm.
That
Okay.
makes sense. This is getting me thinking. I'm involved with the CRM project, which is a new Drupal native CRM, and we have a use case for this, but I don't think we were aware of the module where we have a relationship between two contacts, right? So
Mm.
there's sort of a contact A and a contact B, but we have a reason why we would want to store both of those in the same field, but we still need to differentiate and so show which is sort of the from contact and which is the to contact. So this could be a good use case for that.
Okay, good. So we will reach 2000 installation of Drupal.org.
Yeah, so I think this is interesting because this is something that you can do in code, right? But it also moves it to configuration, which is its own set of problems, but it's nice because a site builder can now access it without needing to know how to write code.
I guess one question in what you said there, Nick, is like, why wouldn't you do this in a theme as opposed to within the field formatter itself?
I can answer. To keep the team business agnostic, because it's a business decision what you are doing. It's not part exactly of the design implementation. It's part of the use of the
Yep.
design with business needs you are satisfying. So it belongs to the configuration of the display, in my
It's
opinion.
funny, Pierre, as you answered it, I also in my head was like, well, to keep the data, in the right way to be ingested, like if you're putting this out via API, you would want maybe going back to your example, right? Maybe you'd want that primary button with sub buttons, and maybe you want them displayed in separate areas in different apps. So you'd want to make sure the data was in the right format for all your use cases, not just the one where your theme is
Yeah.
applied. So anyway, I answered my own question.
All right. Well, thank you, Martin. As always, you found a great module of the week that was on topic. If our listeners want to in touch with you and suggest a module of the week, what's the best way for them to do that?
We are always happy to have, sometimes animated discussions about candidates for the module of the week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as Manclue on all the Drupal and social channels.
Great. See you next week.
See you then.
New England Drupal Camp is happening November 14th and 15th at Rhode Island College in Providence, Rhode Island. This is a 2-day camp where day one features a higher ed summit complete with keynote. They're also doing trainings, a contribution day, and capping it all off with a community social. Day two features another keynote, sessions, the Drupal Coffee Exchange, and an after party. Session submissions are now open. Join us in November in New England. Find out more at nedcamp.org.
And there's another conference coming up. The Longhorn PHP conference is in Austin, Texas, October 23rd through 25th. The call for proposals is through July 18th. And the speaker package for accepted speakers includes airfare and hotel if you're sufficiently far away from Austin, as well as a ticket to the 3-day conference. I'm one of the organizers, and we are working with the Longhorn PHP conference to bring 2 tracks of Drupal content to the Friday, as well as hopefully trainings on the Thursday. So if you're interested, definitely submit a session. It would be great to have a strong showing from across the country and across the world.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. Let's move on to our primary topic. So, Pierre, let's start with maybe a high level question. Can you remind our listeners what the UI suite is?
Mhm. Sure. A suite is many things. First, it's a community of Drupalers, a community dedicated into design system implementation and user integration with Drupal. As far as I know, we are the only community organized like that about this subject. And we are working together since 2017, but we are really organized since 2020. Last, like last year, we have around 100 people contributing in last year. So some people arrive, other people leave, but 100 is it's the name we see in the commit credit and in some events. UI Suite is also a collection of modules to help integration of design system with Drupal API. So it's what we do mainly. And we also release some public theme, Drupal theme, who are production ready example of what our module can do and what design system can do with Drupal.
So that makes complete sense to me because like for the last 3 plus years I've been working on a project that has implemented a design system into Drupal using, using components and blocks and all sorts of stuff. But why would somebody want to use iSuite instead of, I don't know, rolling their own or just kind of building their own thing? What are the benefits of it, I suppose?
To see the benefit, we have to see the issue we want to solve.
Mm,
Did you notice when you go to country, Drupal.org, modules are great. There is a lot of them. They are very useful. They have a lot of its style, but Drupal theme is not the same. The contrib space is weak. They have three main issues. First, they are not shareable. Of
mhm,
course, there is some contrib theme shared by some maintainers, and you can use them. But you will you share your theme you do in a project? As I'm sure it never happen. Sometimes you do a module in a project and you say, "Oh, this will be a good contrib module," but it's barely never happen for a theme because in your theme you have some files like node dash dash warehouse if your client is working with a warehouse dash dash Christmas if your client is
Yeah,
working on a Christmas event. You see, you have a business in your templates and not only in your templates. And then if you say, okay, I will do a team which is not uh, business related, something I can share, you share it, but people will not really be able to use it because they will receive your theme and they will need to add their own media dash dash shop, media dash dash perfume, stuff related to the business again. So you do the effort, you publish, but people need to do what you didn't do. So it's not very useful. And also, and that's the most important, theme are not front dev friendly. There is Drupalism everywhere. What is a node? What is a taxonomy term? Why I need to do the theming of the field? A field is something from the content storage. It's not something I'm supposed to work
yeah.
with.
and when
So
you say
to
when you say front end dev friendly, right, you mean non-Drupal front end dev, right? Like a regular JS, CSS front end developer couldn't come in and start kind of working to build a theme around a Drupal site without having some knowledge of kind of Drupal's theming system already, right?
It's not taboo to Drupal from developers. If a front dev is doing a theme, he will need to learn SDC. We will talk about that later. It's a Drupal format. We need to
Mhm,
learn the libraries.yaml.
mhm,
It's a Drupal format. Info.yaml,
mm,
icons.yaml, something I will
yeah,
also talk about. Those YAML files are Drupal specific.
mhm,
So they need to learn this to work with Drupal. But if you see the content of the file, there is no Drupalism.
mhm,
A front dev can see in the YAML file something he can understand. Okay, this is a slot, this is a prop with the schema. This is libraries CSS URL, libraries dependencies. I can understand that. This is my scope.
mhm.
yeah,
So they are Drupal developers because they learn a few YAML format because they learn how to do tree with Drupal. There is a few differences, but they are not drowning on under Drupalism.
So I want to chime in here too about your first point and kind of hammer that home too. Like you say, it's not shareable. That's why there's not a lot of themes. There's like Bootstrap, there's
Mhm,
Foundation, but the thing is, even if you're an agency trying to make a base theme for your agency, that is an incredibly monumental task. So I have a project for a client where we have a set of web components that are extremely flexible. You know, with CSS variables and design targets and things, we can tweak. We have a starter template, and then we can customize color, spacing, size, designs, layouts, whatever we need to for each additional client. But we have a great starting point. And then with single directory components, we have mapping between those web components and the SDC. So, like, if you have a card component, you want to reuse that, it's an SDC. Great, wonderful. But then you still have the paragraph templates
mhm,
where you have to know exactly like what Pierre just said. You need to know exactly what the implementation for the site is. So you can't take like I can take the SDC and I can take the web components and copy that between 2 sites. The SDCs will work, right? But there's nothing loading the SDCs. So I now have to go through I have to I can copy the paragraph templates over, but I still have to kind of go through one by one and make sure, okay, are all the file fields named exactly the same? Are the types the same? Are they all like there's so much like mapping that you have to do no matter what between Drupal, the application, and the front end that every single front end developer that I've worked with, like you said, John, you meant like other like CSS or JavaScript front end devs that don't know Drupal. Even ones that know Drupal hate this. And even like there's nobody that likes it. Like I don't
Well,
like
yeah. So, I mean, my question was leading a little bit, right? Because
mhm,
if you go to the UI suite module page, right,
yeah.
it talks about integration into various design systems, and as a well, I'm gonna make a blanket statement here, so apologize. But as an industry, right, a lot of people are moving to design systems, and the design system isn't just, hey, this design system powers our Drupal site. It's these components are built so that they can power our mobile site and our website and our app and this and that and this other thing, right? So like building that connectivity layer, that if you, for lack of better terms, API layer that can integrate with a bunch of different design systems that are well known is I think is important. I mean, we see this structure in Drupal with a lot of other things. Search API, AI, right? Their whole AI platform is built with that interaction layer so that you can bring your own, AI, right? I would make a case, and we're going to ask a question later about this, but like I would make a case that like a UI API or a UI, abstraction layer like UI Street is super important.
mhm. But you got the point here. AI API and Search API. Search API, like most of Drupal modules, they provide plugins.
Mhm.
And so we build what we need in YAML file with the admin UI or without. We don't care. Admin UI is just a bonus. We build the YAML file. This is the implementation. This is what we deliver. And we plug into the config the plugins provided by the module. And business implementation will be which plugin we picked and how we configure them.
Mhm.
And that's
So
why we got Search API and it's great. That's
yeah.
why we have the full Drupal ecosystem of modules because of this architecture. But when we work with theme, we ask the front developer not to work like that, but to do the opposite. We say, don't, you are not a provider, don't give us plugin and we will work with them on the application side. We say, this is, this is what we do, you need to tell it. So what US Suite is doing, because question is what I would want to use US Suite, is to bring this Drupal,
Yeah.
it's just doing normal Drupal stuff in the good workflow and not in the reverse workflow we are doing now in theming. And the good news,
Uh,
sorry. Yeah.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna
Go ahead.
say it also sorry, Nick. I know I've cut you off twice now. I'm aware. But like it also allows for a pathway for people to get into Drupal, right? Because if you have a design system, you're using the USDS or something, one of those kind of generic design systems, right? If you're using something like that, it builds a pathway for you to say, like, oh, I can use Drupal. All I got to do is install UI suite and install the USDS module, and now I can connect all the pieces together. Nick, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So I wanted to highlight one other thing too that's like specific. Like I understand some of the reasons behind why it does this, but I think it's the kind of thing that the UI suite can help begin to solve. And the greater, I want to talk about your giant issue that you've been working on, Pierre, for a while that has a lot of this detail in it too. But like, for example, links. If you have a field link, a link field in Drupal, and you just like you're in a template, you just want the URL. Maybe you want it to be relative, maybe you want it to be absolute, but you just want the URL. And if you're doing that directly and there's modules that can format in a way that give you that, which is part of what UI Suite is helping with too. But like if you just come in naively and you have a node field, like you have to do all these checks to see, is it an internal link? Is it a relative link? Is it an absolute link? Is it a route? Like you have to like check like 50 different things just to process something into a URL that you can do. And then if that link is a multi-value field, forget about it. Like it's so much more complicated from a front end perspective. Like the front end perspective, like you really just want to be able to say like, if it's a list, let me iterate over it. If it's not, do I want the process value or the raw value? And no matter what I do, everything should be cached the way it is. Because right, like needing to know whether or not you need to bubble up cache yourself manually in templates too is is
Mm.
is a long-standing issue in the Drupal core issue queue.
So yeah, so the solution here is to solve all this mechanism and to resolve all these problem on the PHP side, on the application side, and once the data is arriving in the template, it's already as expected. And in the template, we have only UI logic, no business logic. So the front developer can be focused on implementing the document according to the design specification with only UI and design logic, and is happy like that.
So the idea before we move on, so the idea is, and the reason why I like SDCs or YAML, all that kind of stuff is that the backend can now know about them. So the long-term goal is when you're trying to create a card SDC or something, right? You're not doing that in the template. You're just going to say it's a paragraph. You go into the paragraph and saying, hey, this paragraph, when it's using this display, should use SDC card, SDC card, and I'm going to map the 5 props that SDC expects from this field to that field formatted this way. Is that kind of the long term? Is that like the main goal of UI Suite and kind of the bigger
Mm.
initiative?
Now, in our suite, we have two goals. The first goal is to add the missing YAML file, because today we have a lot on Drupal already. We have breakpoints, and what we miss, it's other part of design system. So now we have issues about adding a style API for the style utilities and variable API for the CSS variable. So this is the first job of UI Suite. We provide in our module the missing YAML discovery for those plugins. Once Drupal implements them, we will remove them, as we did for UI pattern and SDC. And this is the first job. The second job of UI Suite is to load all those plugins from the YAML and to plug them in Drupal API. For example, SDC, we need to do two stuff. First, we need to expose SDC plugin to Drupal, layout builder, views, block layout, editor file, this kind of stuff. And also, we need to expose Drupal to the slot and prop of the SDC. This is the
Mm.
second job of the UI Suite modules. And I hope the first job we will stop soon because Drupal will be complete and we can focus on the second job.
Awesome. Good to know.
So, Pierre, in February, you released UI Suite 2.0. That sounds like a big deal. Can you tell us why the major version shift?
Yes, so UISuite is a meta package. It's more a community than code, huh? Because the code are split into smaller modules. But two big changes, which is the rewrite of our component, UI component management module upon SDC. Something I told you a lot last time we met, and we were just at the beginning, and it was delivered in February. So we are very happy about that. It's a big, big success, and we will reach 1,000 installs soon. It's going very well. And the second big stuff which motivates the switch from 1.0 to 2.0 is UI icons. UI icon was a missing module of ecosystem, and it's very special to us because it's the first time where we are not ahead of Drupal core. It's the first time when we move at the same speed as Drupal core. Because first it was a need for the navigation module. They wanted to have a better icon management in the module. We talked with the maintainers. They asked us to propose an API to do that, and we were happy. So we developed the API and the UI icon module in parallel. Core maintainers were happy about the API. It was integrated in Drupal 11.1, and the icon was shipped a few weeks later. So this API is like SDC, and UI icon is like UI pattern. So yeah, do big stuff. So 2.0.
I've been working a lot on core recently, but my focus has been a little bit different. I've seen a lot of issues with icons, but I haven't looked into them too closely. Can you give and I know it's something that you're very excited about. Can you give a really high level overview? What does the API icon API allow?
Yes, sure. So most important, it's plugin discovery in YAML. This is the purpose of everything we do. We want the front developer to be able to add those to the theme. So they add YAML file to describe not icons, but icon packs. That's also a big idea. So they describe an icon pack with metadata, with some extraction mechanism to extract the list of icons, some settings to configure the icon from the render API or from admin UI, and also pre-template for the icon wrapper. So that's great because the front developer stays in control and is adding icon pack with the same mindset as is adding SDC component. Then the Drupal is managing the plugins, exposing a render element, exposing tweak function, and soon exposing a form element. This is what Drupal do. And then we have the contrib space. UI icon is using those API for Drupal to provide integration with Set Editor 5, with Field API, Menu API, this kind of integration. But UI icon is not the only one. The ecosystem is now looking at this new API, and soon we will see changes in the landscape of icon modules. And they will become compatible if all using this API in core. For example, if you love the form element of font awesome, but you want the integration with Sec Editor of material icon, today, no, you can't. But now you will be able because I will use the same core API.
So completely dumb question. When we say like UI icons, we literally just mean like icons within the UI, right? Like, like I don't know, a mailbox for a chat, or a
No, no,
mailbox for like a contact us button or something like that, right?
no, no. UI icon is just because UI is our brand. We have UI Switch, UI Skin, UI Example. So it's like all those modules, they take low-level API. Most of the time, they are already in core, and sometimes we're adding them ourselves. And they plug those API to other Drupal API. The idea is to load everything the front developer is doing to the Drupal API for developers and for site builders.
I see. I got it.
So
So
yeah,
again, that
yeah, yeah.
abstraction layer to say like, "Hey, all your icons are here." Like
Yes,
if you
yes.
wanna blanket change your icons to a different, library, you can do that by setting. Got it.
No, not
Okay.
really, not really, because what is happening, it provide a icon collection as we have a component.
Mhm,
So, the back developer in PHP or the site builder from admin UI, they can pick those icon
mhm,
provided by the front developer and use place them where they want,
mhm,
configure them, and so they use them. So once they do that, the icon ID is inside the config.
mhm.
Like the component ID is inside the config when you use SDC.
Got it.
Like your breakpoint, because breakpoint is the same, breakpoint.yaml ID is inside the config when you are using responsive image style. Same principle. So no, you are not able to swap everything, but you are able to use everything as you want.
Mhm.
So it's kind of funny because I always thought it was backward. The responsive breakpoint workflow was backwards. Like you had to write the YAML file before you could configure them. But hearing you talk about this made me realize, like, maybe we could have a third, yet another layer where it's like, okay, let's give an interface to generate that, and then it just writes the YAML file, right?
But who knows about that? Who knows about the design implementation, about the design rules? It's the front developer. The front developer, he receive design input and he need to implement it. So the only one who will be able to tell you what are the breakpoints is him. You, you are acting after him
Yeah,
and you say, okay, I will use the breakpoints provided
yeah,
by the front developer.
yeah. It makes sense. I just meant something to assist with writing, so that you don't like because I think SDCs could use this too, right? An interactive form to just write the YAML. I guess is what I'm saying. Like Drush, you can write even using Drush generate, you can write SDCs. It's very tedious and painful to create an SDC because you have to like, okay, what's the first one? What's the name? And it's like step by step. And if you accidentally hit enter at the wrong time, it's like, oh, you're done. And then now you have to go manually edit
Mhm.
YAML. So if you had some sort of like builder, even if it wasn't part of Drupal or it was like a developer module, right? But a
You can use that
builder,
on Drupal. It's just a plugin generation. You know, we have Drush Gen plugins,
yep,
plugin, and have many kind of plugin. If some plugins types are missing, let's add them.
yeah,
But it's not something specific, I guess.
yeah, yeah. That would be helpful though, I think.
Indeed. Okay, so
Okay, so UI Suite is a complex set of modules that interact with each other. Are there any recipes that you can kind of use to kind of get a good demo or get started on a
mhm.
project?
Yeah, there are many because people come to me and saying, I did a recipe, I did the recipe. You want to see my recipe? When I'm in event, for example, I was in the French camp 2 weeks ago and it was a big subject. But us, the React people, we are just starting. I know a few of us are doing recipe and they create like a Daisy UI CMS. So it's a bunch of recipe to kickstart a website with Daisy UI. But it's only the beginning. We are not something we are rushing into, but of course we are interested.
Is there a list of like available UI suite recipes somewhere?
No, because until now it was for private project. It was just people doing for themselves. The effort to do some public official one is just starting.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Because I'm like, man, I'd really like to try to use this, but I'd really like to just install it via a recipe and could get it all like nice and configured. But got it. All right. So immediately when I think of this, right, especially when we were kind of talking about, themes and kind of the current state of themes within Drupal and the fact that, they're kind of hard to use, like off the shelf themes. I'm always and I don't wanna be negative to folks that are out there creating themes and distributing them on Drupal.org, but I'm always saddened by the fact that I take a theme off the proverbial shelf and I install it, and then there's like a lot of config and a lot of like questions as to how I get it to look like the visuals that I've seen of the theme, right? I think moving then the needle on that, both bringing the visual and the functionality together, right, is this idea of site templates. And I'm wondering how UI suite could be helpful to something like the site template ecosystem that, Drupal's kind of working towards.
Mm. Of course, we are looking on to that. It's still a bit blurry for us. It's still a bit new. It was announced recently. We saw that a template must be built for Drupal CMS using the recipe. So here we are with some demo content. It makes sense, and they must be compatible with Experience Builder. So this part, I don't really know what does it mean to be compatible with Experience Builder,
Mhm.
but I know that this tool is using SDC component, and it's very hard to use SDC component in display building from an UI. If lot of front developers they do SDC component, they half of it, and because they are never loading them from the render API or the plugin API, they just use
Mhm.
template to template. They don't see the issue. So us, UI Suite with UI pattern, when we take SDC component, we load it, the plugin, the render element, and it needs to be good, to be usable in admin UI. So in a way, we are a bit educating the community. The more people will be compatible with UI Suite, the more theme will be compatible with UI Suite, the more they will be ready for Experience Builder. And so, if I understand well, with the site template.
So
Mm.
does that mean then the design system modules, are they the best way to see how a well-written SDC and render like a is that the best place to see that
Mm.
done correctly, or
Mhm.
do you need the actual theme using those modules?
You don't need UI Suite for that or UI pattern, but ATC is not a fancy way of organizing your template in the team.
Okay.
It's not a fancy way of putting template into subfolder with your CSS file aside, and a cute YAML. If it would be that, it would not be that interesting. And most of the team today in Contrib are using ATC like that. Just, oh, I'm organizing my template with component. But once you try to load those, it doesn't work well because it was not tested like that. It was just tested including the template of their template. So they use only the template part of ADC.
Hmm.
So we need to make the community grow and getting more maturity on this subject. Me, I do my job on it because I create frequently issue on the Drupal theme using ADC.
Mhm.
We also created a module called ADC Devil to help auditing the component, but we are not ready. The ADC is not is
Yeah, I'll be honest, it sounds like I'm using it the way that you just described, and so it sounds like I'm using them
a
incorrectly.
fancy way of organizing the template.
Yeah, so if you we'll put some notes in the show notes, but if we can get some resources that kinda
Mm,
highlight specifically the do's and don'ts
mm,
for SDCs, that I would love to review that myself and see if there's something I can
Well,
change.
so
mm.
I guess my question here is like, could you kind of reverse engineer, right? So if you look at the UI suite USWDS module, right? It says that it's a site builder friendly USWDS theme for Drupal using UI suite. And then it goes on to say that it's utilizing single directory components. So I would imagine that could be a good, like, hey, here's the right way to do this sort of example, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Of course, our team have two purposes. If we provide US Suite, USWDS, US Suite Bootstrap, US Suite UI, all those things, it's both to show what we are able to test modules because we are testing with real life example, but also for the people to use them because they are production ready. So
Okay.
it's for me the in my opinion among the best SDC theme today you can find on Drupal.org. You have the UI Suite ones. It's a safe
Oh,
bet.
okay. So maybe I'll switch my company site
Mhm.
over to using it as a proper example then.
Pierre, you mentioned Experience Builder,
Mhm.
and there's some uncertainty about exactly what's going to happen there and what's going to come of this sort of amazing concept, right? What is the relationship, do you think, between UI Suite and Experience Builder? Is UI Suite going to be helpful?
Mm. We can both be helpful. Us, we are very happy Experience Builder is coming because we were feeling a bit lonely last years advocating for design system methodology and for display building. Every time I was talking about UI Suite, I was like, I need to explain two stuff. Why display building is great, why you need to build your display in config, because it was the time where headless was fancy and everybody was going to headless. It was trendy. And me, I was like, no, 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 bring back the display logic to the Drupal app, but put it in config instead. So when Dries told starting Experience Builder, he put display building on the map again. It was cool again, thanks to him. And now, us UI Suite, we are way more comfortable because when we talk about display building, people are not arguing anymore because yeah, Dries say it's cool, so it's cool. So now we can just focus on promoting our solution. So experience builders are doing their stuff. They are going in a very specific direction, and they have strong opinion and they put a lot of effort. I think it's a good time for the Drupal community to do this kind of work because we need a new display building tool, more modern, layout builder, page layout, views. They haven't changed for, I don't know, 7, 8 years now. They are the same UI, same features for display building. So we
Yeah.
need to have a new solution with modern features. Also, we need to unify it because the experience of display building on views, block layout, manage display, manage form display, layout builder are totally different. And it's a mess for the site builder. And also they need to be design system native because today a big part of the design system plugin to the display,
Yeah.
but if we can just plug them without this middle part to be great. So experience builder, they they kind of fit in this dream. They use component, not much than that, but component, they want to unify some part of the display building experience, and they want to bring modern features like the preset and everything. So I'm happy. But that's not all, because I think Experience Builder also it's very specific, it's very opinionated, and I hope the community will come with similar proposals. There is so much things everybody can do. I hope it will bloom. Us, UI Suite, we are also proposing a display building tool. It's just called Display Builder. Have you heard of it?
No.
No?
To me,
So we announced it in Atlanta during the DrupalCon, during my talk, and we released it a few weeks ago. It's still in alpha. Alpha 2 will be released this week, but we want to deliver for this fall. Vienna will be a dream. So the 3 criteria for modern display building tool are met with our display builder. Is design system native? Of course, it's UI Suite. We know so much about design system, so we are plugging everything. The Icon API, SDC, style utilities, we plug everything into the tool.
Yeah.
And you can bring your own design system and it will work because our philosophy is to not is not a tool to build a design system, but to build from design system.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean,
Also,
that's
we have a unified building experience. Just I finished that because we are addressing entity view display, classic with content override, views display, it works already, page layout, and also city form display. We just wait for the core to be ready, and we hope it will be in 6 months.
I mean, that's the I don't know. That's the dream, right? To be able to kind of like bring your own design system to Drupal and then be able to use it within something like Experience Builder to start building pages pretty rapidly, right? I think like, the way that you kind of outline this and talk about it is, I don't know. It's super exciting to me because I feel like that's kind of the end goal and that's one of the ways that we make Drupal more appealing to enterprise or a little bit easier to get into for enterprise because there are plenty of and edu and other areas, right, that have their own
Yeah,
design system and they don't want to do that rebuild or a lot of heavy engineering to use their design system with their cms. They want to make it easy for them to bring their own design system and you know press a couple of buttons, hook a couple of things up and then have it just kind of work. And,
yeah,
you know, that's super appealing, I think, to a lot of people.
Bring your own design system is very important. Let's not fall into the trap of the universal design system, and you will be able to shape any design with our dreamy universal design system. No, us with UI Suite on private project, on public project, we worked with dozens and dozens and dozens of design systems. They all are very specific, and there is a reason why you have so many, because they have intention, they have direction, they have branding,
yeah,
they have opinions, and
yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, I mean, really it sounds like you're trying to solve with the bring your own design system, the piece that you're solving is that mapping layer, mapping in the data structuring layer, right? That's the piece that I think very quickly turn turns into a huge time sink and turns people off from Drupal when it comes to the theming layer because there's just so many aspects. Like if you're coming to a Drupal theme, it can take a lot of experience to understand how something is coming from an edit form on a
Yep.
node
Mm,
to the front end. Like, do you go to the display? Do you have to go to the theme? Do you have to go to a module preprocess function? Do you have to go to a theme like tracing how the data is flowing out to the end when they just want to tweak, front end developer wants to tweak how some data looks, fixing that layer or having a design system to start with and like, how do I get the data from Drupal into this design system?
mm.
That's that's one of the
You
biggest barriers to entry.
you raise a great point there, Nick, and it reminds me of the popularity of like the feeds module, right? Like, why is feeds so popular? Because it allows you to take data from outside systems and map it into your Drupal content type or into Drupal period, right? And I think like that for connecting a design system to your data within Drupal is like super important to make this easier to use, make it, and make it appealing for folks to kind of jump in.
But that's the opposite here. We are pulling data from Drupal to the design system.
Right.
We are so it's both way. We are taking a design system object because it's not only component,
Mhm.
and we are plugging to the display. And then from the display, we are pulling the data from Drupal API. And it's something we do for many years now. It's been 8 years we are doing that. And I'm very happy about the current state. I think we are doing it well. We are managing most of the use case. We are doing very good config dependency management, cache management, data normalization. So we are now mature on this data retrieval part, and I know people are happy to use UI data.
Okay. So one of the things that Drupal CMS is a thing. I don't know if you've heard of it. People are
Mhm.
very excited about
Yes.
it. Has there been any talk about moving UI Suite into CMS to help kind of get additional
Mm.
exposure and show people that there's a better way of doing things?
There was a talk indeed. I created a ticket in January. I was convinced from the deep inside my heart, it will be the best things to do for Drupal CMS because, as I told you before, Drupal theme are not ready yet. If you plug any Drupal theme with SDC to a display building tool like Experience Builder, it will not be. It can be a bit disappointing. So we need to educate both the front developer to make components which will be good for display building, and also site builder to start to build display with components. So we are very lucky because we have a standard. It's called SDC, it's in core, and more people will get used about UI suite and UI pattern and will be comfortable with this kind of component development and this kind of display building. The more people will be ready for Experience Builder. They will just have to learn the new UI, not the deep concept. But it was the issue is still here and it didn't land. So
Yeah, yeah, I just took a quick look at it. It looks like it was
mm,
just before the commit freeze, so I think it would have been a bit of a hurdle, but
yeah,
maybe
but
for yeah.
I mean, so I can kind of understand the timing of this being not the best, right? But I also see great value in that, lack of better terms again, like normalization layer for design systems, right? Like the one of the things that Experience Builder is building is a Drupal design system, if you will, right? So it has components, it has single directory components, it has all of these pieces, right?
mm,
But that's going to be a Drupal specific thing, right? To work with Experience Builder, and maybe that's necessary to kind of get it out there into a 1.0 version, right? But like I could see in a 2.0 version of Experience Builder, right, having the UI suite framework in place to be able to say like, hey, you don't have to just use the Drupal design system. You can use any design system you want. And when I say any, I mean maybe, hey, there are four that are, or two or three that are like tested, verified, workable, right? And then we build upon that. But like that to me, it feels like it brings great value. So like, yes, maybe this isn't a hey, let's do it right now thing, or hey, maybe it's not a hey, let's do it in 1.0 thing, but I think it's definitely something that should be considered for a 1.5 or a
mm.
2.0 release where like now I can now as long as I've built my design system using a commonly used, starting point, and I've used good practices to build my design system, I can now bring it to Drupal and be able to use a reliable page builder to implement it.
Can I
But yeah.
can I
Yes,
clarify
yes, Nick,
something?
please remove me from my soapbox.
No problem. So I have a question then. So we had asked about recipes, we'd asked about examples, but am I understanding this correctly that most of what happens with UI Suite once you have the plugins created, all that kind of stuff, is config. So you can create recipes from these that are portable, right?
This IP can init.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I never use them.
Oh,
But
oh,
they can init config, no? You can have an image style into this IP. You can have a text format into this IP, I guess.
Yeah,
So it's the same. You can have a display with your plugins already configured inside. But I just wanted to go back in the previous question.
sure, sure.
We will, in this future, 2.0 future, we will not need a UI suite for that because I hope our last YAML format, the last front dev format, will be shipped, will land into Drupal core. I hope in 1 year, UI suite will be smaller. Our goal is not to be here forever. We want to disappear one day, We want to change Drupal theming, and we already started, and and then we want to say hello to to say
it's a
goodbye to the
it's a
scene,
much more diplomatic approach as to say,
And
hey, we want to change the way core is doing this to be more widely usable, and then just kind of like fade away.
yes, we are not pushing a brand today.
Yeah.
UI Suite is a very useful brand to gather those people and to share a vision and to coordinate the modules.
Mhm.
But we are not pushing the brand. Our brand, what is happening to Drupal core, what is already started with the previous plugin, YAML plugins, and what we will add is to implement any design system into Drupal theme. A design system is already designed, already implemented, and already built.
Yeah.
UI Suite and the Drupal theme are not a design system, and they are not a design system maker, and they are not a design system manager. They are just a way of plugging a design system already built.
Yeah.
The
Drupal's a
job is done
consumer.
to Drupal.
Yeah. Drupal's a consumer.
Drupal is the consumer. So us, we are after the designer work, after the front end work, and we are very respectful of the designer, the front end work. We don't tell them you need to do this like that and like that and like that. We say, oh, you can do whatever you want. You just have to describe what you did in YAML, and we will be able to use it. As another approach, they want to go to those persona. They want to go on the upstream, and they want to have this kind of design system where designer and front developer will be able to build design in that system. It's interesting, but it's a totally opposite approach of us.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we share the same API, so we are collaborating.
Yeah. It sounds good. So there's an issue that you created about a week ago, a little bit over a week ago, that I think is going to be an iconic issue in for Drupal, and it's titled "Make Drupal the First Design System Native CMS and Unify and Simplified Render and Theme Systems," which is a mouthful, kind of rolls off the tongue.
It's my
It
manifesto.
Yes, it is a very, very long, very well written issue. Long story short, let's kind of I think everybody who's interested in UI Suite, interested in this topic, should go read that, follow that issue. You mentioned there's a few missing YAML files that
Mm,
Drupal themes or Drupal needs in order to kind of build a design system. Can we briefly talk? Maybe we
of
start with
course.
variables, but let's briefly talk about the three
And I
and
can
you give an idea of what's
Of course,
missing.
of course. And I can give you two different scenarios. Okay. The one I'm pushing, because the idea is not to copy paste US Suite into Drupal core. Absolutely not. Is to US Suite is only one of the starting point, and then it's a community work. And if we need to change US Suite next year because core got something else, we will do it. So I'm not pushing my format, but still, today we have the breakpoints, the components, the layouts API in YAML, but SDC finally is doing kind of the same job. We have the icon API. It's good. What we miss is a style API. This style API can be used for two different mechanisms. The first mechanism is what calls the utilities. It's CSS classes or sometimes data attribute you can put everywhere on the markup just to alter this part of the markup
Yeah.
with a single purpose, universal alteration. So for example, I want to apply this background color. I want to switch to my alternative font. I want to remove the shadow, this kind of utility class. If you don't have that, you need to add the same 40 props in all your components. And it's not
Or
something you.
or even going in a step further, like, the way that you work around that in Drupal right now, I mean, there's multiple ways, but the most basic way is you create a component in Drupal, a paragraph, and you say, "Okay,
Mhm,
background," and the background color can be blue, red, or yellow. And
mhm,
then in the theme or the module or something, you say, "Okay, if it's yellow, then it means this variable, and if it's this,"
mhm,
and then you add those classes. But with this type of system, you can have presumably, I'm making some assumptions here, but presumably you could be like, "Hey, this group of styles are background color style primary background color styles." And then there's a way you can just apply those to any component that can consume that. And if that list changes, now you're not having to update 17 different fields to
exactly.
be
Exactly.
consistent. It's just pulling from the
And it's not
source.
something from us, we didn't invent that. everything we do on UI Suite, we just go to the existing web design system and we see, is something existing?
Yeah.
If you take the core issue, I'm starting by cataloging, analyzing existing design system. So a lot of design system have this feature, so we need to have this feature. And also, it's not up to the site builder to decide what will be the background colors and what will be the different kind of shadow. It's something was already decided by the designer and already implemented by the front developer. So the front developer is say, okay, this design is allowing to switch down color between 5 value. I will implement this in CSS and I will describe my implementation in a YAML file. And the job is done. The
Yep.
design system is implemented. It can be used in Drupal.
So that's utilities.
That's what it is. And also we will use, we want to use the same API for the mode switching. You know, when you want to switch a full page of a part of the page from dark to light, from high contrast to low contrast, from brand A to brand B, you know, this kind of switch. So this is one of the first API I'm proposing. And the second one is CSS variable. So this variable are a set of tokens. I'm introducing this word because I will talk about that in 1 minute. It's a set of design tokens were exposed after the build. So your design was already built, your front was already built,
Yeah.
but at runtime, you can override some values.
Hmm.
A set of values your front developer has decided to open to you.
So it's interesting to me because I recently came off of a project where we built a system that did something very similar. Like our theme had kind of a default set, base set of values and CSS variables in it, right? To say like, here are the color, here's the base set of colors and whatnot. And then through Drupal and a site builder could say, hey, we want to change this color, we want to apply this color, and build, you know, vastly different sites with their component based design system, all by changing color scheme and logos, right? So there is definitely 100% a business use case for that. But I guess what I'm wondering as we bring the show to a close here, what's next for UI Suite? I mean, what gets you excited that's on the roadmap that you're like, oh man, we have to start working on this. It's, you know, one of those things that's like, you know, just really exciting and kind of the next phase of UI Suite, if you will.
Okay, so after we shift all this new API to core, we're still open to discussion. I want this everybody to know that it's open discussion. So what we plan to do is to ship our display builder. It will be a very important tool for us because it's like the meeting point of everything we did until now. Uh,
Is there like a link to the distributor, or is it just part of UI Suite?
Now we have a project. It's called display underscore builder.
Oh, okay.
It's still in alpha one, but if you want to, if you're curious, you can have a look. It's like the meeting of all the other API, and it's built upon the other API. So this is very exciting and important. Also, we are making progress in our module. We are extending with new features and new API. And also, Nick told about my meta issue, my big issue. The second part of this issue is to modernize the render and theme system. So I was honored to become a core lead, a provisional front end manager 2 months ago. And my goal first is to work on design system into Drupal, but
Yep.
the scope is identified and we can finish soon, I guess. And then, thanks to those new API, we can do a big work on the render and theme system.
Let's not glaze over what you just said here, right? So like you're a provisional core maintainer. Did I
Yeah, I
understand?
was core maintainer before. Now I'm core lead, provisional front end manager.
Okay. I mean, that's a big deal, right? Like, I mean, I think that's a nice designation to make sure that the knowledge and the strategy that you've kind of built around the UI suite is kind of making its way as best it can into core and into, you know, some of the interfaces that we use. So,
Mm.
congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's exciting and a bit frightening.
Yeah,
I
I
can
know
understand
it
that.
is. Yeah.
I can understand that.
So, so Pierre, our newly inspired listeners, how can they get involved with UI Suite?
Mm. Okay, so first, by being a user, you can test our modules. We have 4 modules. Each one is dealing with a specific design system API, and you can use them independently. So you can, for example, if you are in 2 components, use a pattern, into icon, UI icon, you can pick your API and discover the module. If you are a happy user, you can also, I guess you will do some theming in your project. And good news, now your theme will be shareable because it's one of the goal. We started with that this interview. I don't know what to say. So one of the goal it was to make the theme shareable. So you can share the theme you are doing with those modules. You can also test this builder. We need to have a lot of feedback, a lot of participation. You can wait August because August we will be close to beta and maybe it will be more comfortable. You can join on our Slack channel. We have 350 people and we answer the question. It's very lively. There is a good mood and people are helping each other. And also we have a monthly every month. There is 20 plus people coming. More and more people from the United States are coming. So something is happening in USA. And once you did all this, using and communicating, you are also welcome to contribute. For example, we are starting on AI from some stuff, and we need hands, we need tester, we need front developer also. We need people. We are a big team, a big sub community, but we do a lot of things. So more people is better.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Pierre, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on to talk about the front end state of Drupal and how UI Suite is doing. So thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Do you have questions or feedback? Reach out to Talking Drupal on the socials with the handle Talking Drupal or by email with show@talkingdrupal.com. You can connect with our hosts and other listeners on Drupal Slack and the Talking Drupal channel.
You can promote your Drupal community event on Talking Drupal. Learn more at talkingdrupal.com/TD promo.
Get the Talking Drupal newsletter to learn more about our guest hosts, show news, upcoming shows, and much more. Sign up for the newsletter at talkingdrupal.com/newsletter.
And thank you, patrons, for supporting Talking Drupal. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can learn more about becoming a patron at talkingdrupal.com and choosing Become a Patron. All right, as we close out, Pierre, if our listeners wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, so you can reach me on Slack. I'm P Dureau, Dureau, the same as my Drupal nickname. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm open to business. I have a small agency. And so if you want, first, I can help you with my community hat. And if you want to do more, I can travel everywhere in the world.
Awesome.
So
And
don't be shy.
awesome. And JD, how about you?
Find me as JD Leonard on Drupal.org or Drupal Slack.
And how about you, John?
You can find me at Picozzi.com or on social media and Drupal.org at John Picozzi. And you can find out about EPAM at EPAM.com.
And you can find me pretty much everywhere at Nixvan, NICXVAN.
And if you've enjoyed listening, we've enjoyed talking.
See you guys next week.
Have a good
I
one, everyone.